Thanks and congratulate everyone who has gathered here for the 11th Post-Russia Nation Forum. We're gathering today, June 14, in Lithuania, Vilnius, and why are this day symbolic for us? On June 14, 1941, the NKVD, after a year of careful planning on the highest level in Soviet Union, started mass deportation of Lithuanian population to Siberia. NKVD KGB files that were recovered from after Soviet left Lithuania reveals that the NKVD targeted about 320,000 persons, or 50% of Lithuanian population at that time. More than 20% of deportees did not survive this deportation. Another 20 were not granted the right to return to their homeland. This all happens in living memory. I myself was raised in a family of deportees in Siberia. We were among those lucky ones who survived and made it home during 1960s. And why we're gathering here in the neighborhood of the same as the Parliament of Lithuanian Republic. 34 years ago, on March 11, 1990, the Seimas of the Republic of Lithuania announced the restoration of independent state of Lithuania from Soviet Empire. It happened just 100 meters away from where we are now. We want to share our experience with the other countries that have been in the Soviet Union and which we see are still struggling to find their way. We want to support in any ways we can the other countries and regions that seek their independence from Russia and other communist states. As you know, many democratic Russian and Belarusian groups and institutions have found safe refuge in Lithuania. We are proud that our country can provide a safe harbor for them. We have also warmly welcomed the representative of Taiwan democracy and independence. We see remarkable similarities between the threats facing Taiwan from another communist regime which, like Russia, remains committed to absorb nearby territories which can achieve independence, prosperity, and democracy, such as Hong Kong and now Taiwan. And finally, why I'm here. Let me say that I'm very pleased to see that the value of this event is significantly enhanced by the attention of Professor Landsbergis, who will join us maybe shortly. I believe that we've been agreed upon. We hope to see him here among us. Professor Landsbergis also played a large role in my own political career. In fact, I would like to take an opportunity to recount the story of 2 missions he sent me on. These lessons from those missions are, I believe, both topical and relevant to this forum. The first mission was in March 1990, just a week after after the declaration of the re-establishing of our state. President Landsbergis appointed me for the mission to Switzerland. In addition, on the way to Bern, my assignment was to meet with ambassadors of the main EU countries residing in Poland. Landsbergis directed me to present his letter and brief the ambassadors and through them their national governments about Lithuanian Declaration of Independence. Our goal was simple: to seek for recognition of Lithuanian independence, to find support and assistance to enable Lithuanian return to the family of free Europe. I remember well the reaction of most of the ambassadors with whom I met. I encountered doubts or even mild annoyance. Ambassadors plainly feared the possible consequences of Lithuanian aspiration. This reaction seems incredible now, but let assure you that not a single ambassador understood the far-reaching consequences of Lithuanian stance, how it would set off a cascade of events leading to the collapse of the Soviet Empire. The second mission was in December the same year, when Professor Landsbergis and I, accompanied by 2 senior government advisors, met with US President George Bush at the White House in Washington. At that meeting, we asked for more tangible US support of Lithuanian independence. We asked for a strong statement from Bush. What we got was sympathy. But in terms of policy, Bush was clear. He was willing to make a lukewarm repetition of the US long-standing policy of non-recognition of the Soviet occupation of the Baltics and support for self-determination. Beyond that, we would not go, and our meeting was over in 40 minutes. That same day, Baker, the US Secretary of State, met with Soviet Foreign Minister Shevardnadze for many hours in Texas. I see parallels to this situation today. We see similar arguments being made regarding Ukraine, that moderation, concession, a compromise are the key to an agreement with Russia. Again, no alternate scenarios for Russia's future are officially being considered, as we are again succumbing to atomic blackmail. And I would like to ask, why do we let Putin to think that missiles can only fly from his side and not back? Why do we let Putin to think that atomic conflicts is feared by us only here in the West? Why do we think that Putin and his cronies who have put in their personal pockets assets stolen from their population worth more than $2 trillion has nothing to lose? Thank goodness there are some wiser and more courageous leaders emerging. One of them is Member of European Parliament Anna Fotiga's call through a European Parliament resolution for the West to encourage and support decolonization of the ill-fated imperial entity of Putin's Russia. Fotiga saw decolonization of Russia as a necessary condition and a precursor for Russian democratization. Ben Hodges, ex-commanding general of the United States Army Europe, has taken the same stance as Fotiga, identifying empire as the root of Russian aggression. Also, I would like to raise the topic that why do we discuss these years in Lithuania? Who are those so-called good Russians, and what does good Russian mean? The number of people who've been emigrated from Russia in the last few years was impressive. On the other hand, one must ask, what has become of mass initiatives against Putin regime only once they reach the safety in the West? Here in the Baltics, we will remember the effort of the Baltic expatriates in the West to help the occupied Baltic states to get rid of hated Soviet regime. Yet as soon as the horrors of the World War II passed, without any resources and external support, our Baltic immigration went to work against Soviet regime. It raised money, mounted protests, and publicized the truth about USSR occupation. The immigration never abandoned us, and worked for years to free the Baltics and denounce the Soviet regime, pressuring Western leaders with appeals, demonstration, and like that. Were the demonstration of Russians in the safety of exile protesting the war? Why don't more Russians in exile demand unconditional Ukraine military support? Are they really terrified that Putin will interfere with them in the West? Or maybe they support the imperialistic war, just do not want to get to the front line themselves? Are Russians in exile fearful that military support of Ukraine would help Ukrainian army successfully defend hold Ukraine and thereby endanger the Russian Empire and bring it closer to the breakdown? This is how we are learning to distinguish good Russian. I would like to offer a new question, which in my opinion should become another cornerstone in determining good Russians. Once used, whose is their Crimea has already become obsolete. Now I would like to ask them, would you be in favor of Russia losing its nuclear weapons? Russia has not need a nukes. After all, if Russia remains in the current borders, nobody threatens such a large and influential Russia anyway. Even Putin, I believe, is well aware that there is no external military threat from the West side. And it's clear that should Russia have an ambition to become a significant and influential nation, it could rely on real economic and cultural achievements. International prestige is not earned through never-ending intimidation of neighbors, war crimes, theft, and blackmail. Therefore, for the newly elected European Parliament, we have one already elected European member from Lithuania, I would like to suggest adopting a second resolution that would complement Anna Fotiga's call for decolonization of Russia with a call naming Russia denuclearization as one of the most important conditions for the safer world. In conclusion, I would submit that the critical goal of this forum is to encourage Western society and leadership to confront the real underlying causes of Russia's behavior. Because if we deal with the symptoms only, we risk continuing recurrences of Russia's bad behavior. However, whatever variants are being prepared, one circumstance should not be ignored. All of this must not be strengthened China. To this forum in Vilnius is dedicated to probably the only peaceful path of liberalization of nations stuck in imperial grip. This is the way based on right of self-determination of nations. So thank you for everyone for coming and wish you a productive work.